if you haven't enjoyed our other videos in the past, you're surely going to enjoy whichever one you're watching now. So just make sure after you watch this video, subscribe, like, comment. I know everyone says
Hopefully
that.
I don't piss you off.
Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't piss you off.
Hopefully I don't piss him off.
Exactly.
I mean, I do it all the time on Twitter.
Yeah, but everyone says subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff. You know why? Because that's just the formula. We have to do it. We've been told we have to do it, so we got to do it.
That's the formula. We break the formula because we're the ring generals. Raise a glass in the sky and salute the ring generals.
How's it going, everybody? And welcome to the Ring Generals official review of Extreme Rules. And after 4 long hours, yes, 4 long hours, the pay-per-view is finally over. And, well, I'm a little bit disappointed. Maybe a lot disappointed. A lot was wrong with this show. The beginning was great. Specifically, 2 out of the first 3 matches were fantastic. They were pay-per-view level. They delivered. And pretty much the rest of the card was disappointing, and it was standard. And after some great events this weekend, Evolve from WWE's own brand itself, and then, of course, Fight for the Fallen, which I didn't think was great, but was serviceable. Extreme Rules fell flat in what was supposed to be the last event of the weekend, the crown jewel, no pun intended, of this great weekend of wrestling. And I haven't even seen Evolve. I've heard it's a great show. But nonetheless, I'm going to review Extreme Rules here. I'm just going to go through the matches really quickly. If you know anything about the Ring Journals, we don't give these long hour long, hour and a half long, 45-minute reviews. We try to limit it to around 20 minutes or less if we possibly can. So like I mentioned, the beginning of this pay-per-view was great. The Undertaker, Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, Shane McMahon match was great. Not only was it a great way to start the show, but it was just a great match. It had a great story. Undertaker looked awesome, and compared to the Saudi Arabian show against Goldberg, where a lot of stupid stuff happened, Undertaker is redeemed in a lot of fans' eyes, and including my eyes. And I thought he looked great. Even the ring gear he was wearing today made him look more flattering in the ring. There's nothing wrong with your body aging, and the Undertaker's body is aged. He's in his 50s, and a lot of times when he'd wear that the low-hanging straps, it didn't look so good. It made him look skinny, it made him look small, it made him look weak, and he wore kind of a unusual sort of tank top tonight. It made him look great. Nonetheless, that's not what I'm going to talk about. The match was awesome. There was great camera shots. There was great moments. Shane McMahon put in some good work. Drew McIntyre put in some good work. Roman Reigns put in some good work. And, of course, The Undertaker, knowing his age and his recent kind of unsuccessful matches, this was a successful one. And it served its purpose. Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre lose. We'll see what happens next. Hopefully, this is the end of the Roman Reigns, Shane McMahon saga. I wouldn't mind a Drew McIntyre Undertaker match, possibly at SummerSlam. But if all of these guys moved on from each other, I would not be mad. Nonetheless, this match was great. Then you had a Raw Tag Team Championship match that was very uneventful. The Revival retain. But nonetheless, not much to say here. I'm glad they retained because I want the Revival as champions. I've seen the Usos as champions before. And it was good. Nothing to complain there. It just was uneventful. Not much there. I didn't care about the match coming in. Then you moved to Aleister Black and Cesaro, and I loved the build to this match. Aleister Black obviously asking for someone to knock on his door. Someone come and fight me. Cesaro steps up to the plate in the last SmackDown before the pay-per-view. It sets up a great, unusual type of match. I believe these guys had never fought before. If they have, whatever, they hadn't fought in WWE obviously before, so this was the first time we were going to see it, and it delivered. Shorter match, but a lot of great spots. Very physical, rough match. I love the way Aleister Black picked apart the legs of Cesaro in a very realistic MMA style, and Cesaro ended up selling it at the end of the match. And then the finish, a black mass out of nowhere after a couple of combinations of punches and kicks, was a great ending, and it puts both guys over. Both guys deserve pushes, especially Aleister Black, who they actually built a story for going into this pay-per-view. Probably one of the best stories coming in, at least in my opinion, not probably. In my opinion, it was one of the best stories coming into this pay-per-view. You move along, and a lot of the middle of this pay-per-view is very see-through and predictable, and some of the matches were a little disappointing. Bayley retaining her title against the team of Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Predictable. Nikki Cross takes the fall, so Alexa Bliss technically didn't lose the title. Nonetheless, I don't want to see these guys wrestle again. So Bayley winning, it was whatever, blah. Move on to the next match. If I'm out of order in some of these, it's just because I'm using my phone to record right now. My computer was malfunctioning a little bit, so I wanted to get this review out as quick as possible so I don't have my notes. So if I missed something, ask me in the comments, and I'll give you my genuine opinion on it. I believe there's a SmackDown tag team match somewhere in the middle here. I don't necessarily know why Heavy Machinery didn't win this match. New Day winning is not a horrible thing. But I thought Heavy Machinery did enough, and they kind of built them up to win this title. So it was a little disappointing. I didn't see most of this match. I was doing some work on my computer, and just knowing that this match probably wasn't going to be the match of the night, per se. I missed a lot of this. I saw the ending. The crowd really loved that the New Day won, but I really thought Heavy Machinery should have won this match. So I was a little disappointed in that. Nonetheless, we'll see what happens there. You have AJ Styles and Ricochet. This was a match that I think a lot of people were excited for. The match, kind of normal. I'm glad AJ Styles won because it gives the club some credibility. You now have a championship involved in this new heel faction. And I wouldn't mind if Finn Balor or another one of these old club guys joining again to create a huge faction going into SummerSlam and going into the build for WrestleMania and having some big payoff at WrestleMania. So I'm not mad that Ricochet lost the title. I am okay with Ricochet and AJ Styles going after it again at SummerSlam if they deliver a better match than they did at this one. I just thought it was kind of a normal match. It was a match that you'd see more on a Raw or a SmackDown than you would on a pay-per-view. And judging from the fact that they actually had a couple matches on Raw and SmackDown, this one kind of seemed the same. So disappointing in that case that the match was normal and uneventful. But the result I'm okay with because I think the club needs a championship. And if you want to legitimize the team, a title is a good way to do that. Kevin Owens and Dolph Ziggler, not much to talk about here. Quick win. I don't know how many seconds, but KO with the stunner of Dolph Ziggler very quickly. And then he goes on the mic and kind of reiterates the things he said on SmackDown in that fantastic promo he said last Tuesday. He kind of goes on and just, says, they can't cut my mic this time, but, I stand by my statements and I expect to get fired or whatever he said. You can go check it out. It's a short segment and it's not that big of a deal. Moving on to the championship matches, the big-time championship matches. I'm talking about the WWE Championship between Kofi Kingston and Samoa Joe, and then, of course, this mixed tag Extreme Rules match, and one other championship match that we had. But let me go to Kofi and Samoa Joe. Again, a lot like AJ Styles and Ricochet, this match could have had a lot of potential. Samoa Joe dominated most of the time. Kofi Kingston hits the Trouble in Paradise, and it's 1, 2, 3, and Kofi retains his title. There was a little bit of a chance there where you might have thought Brock Lesnar could have come out and cashed in his Money in the Bank because the match was sort of normal again. A couple good spots, but nonetheless, Samoa Joe just can't kick out of the finisher of Kofi Kingston. So, again, Kofi, I tweeted this out if you didn't see it. The Trouble in Paradise is one of the most devastating moves in WWE, even though the last 10, 11 years, it really has been a pretty, weak move that a lot of people kicked out on. I get it. He's the WWE champion, but I don't like that kind of unrealistic style where a big guy like Samoa Joe can't take a simple kick to the face. So I was disappointed in the ending of this match. I'm not disappointed that Kofi won. I didn't really care who won this match because I think we're all waiting for, as fans, a New Day breakdown, whether it be Big E or Xavier Woods. I think a lot of people want to see Big E turn on Kofi Kingston. I do too. I think Big E has the most potential out of this group. Literally the most potential. I think he's the best superstar out of the three, even though Kofi Kingston is the WWE champion. So I didn't mind if they lost the title. I think no matter what, we were going to have either a rematch with Samoa Joe at SummerSlam or a new opponent. I expect a Big E turn at SummerSlam. Just slipped off my chair right there. I expect a Big E turn, heel turn on Kofi at SummerSlam. So this match really didn't need to happen. And the problem with WWE nowadays is that they're stacking too many pay-per-views in a row. So you don't actually need all these titles defended on these cards. And I thought this was a good chance. Sorry, the lights are flickering because my air conditioning is coming on, if you can see that happening. But back to what I was saying. They're stacking so many pay-per-views in a row that there's kind of some meaningless championship matches. And a lot of the same matches we're seeing over and over again. This was an opportunity, I think, where you could have built a Samoa Joe, Kofi Kingston rivalry all the way to SummerSlam, and then had Kofi Kingston win and Big E turn on Samoa Joe, and you do kind of a double take there, and you have two great moments. Kofi winning and then the turn at SummerSlam. We'll see who his opponent's going to be at SummerSlam. I don't want it to be Samoa Joe now that he lost and lost clean 1, 2, 3 in the center of the ring. But if it is, I still expect a Big E heel turn, and as long as there's a Big E heel turn at SummerSlam, you'll see me and the rest of the ring generals excited about what there is to come leading into the fall, and especially with the new competition around. You need those big-time storylines to start developing in the fall because there's a new company coming in October, and SmackDown is moving to Fox. Moving on to the Raw and Women's Championship match, the mixed tag team match between Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, and Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans. A lot of moments here that were, it's quote-unquote Extreme Rules. They used enough weapons to make that match title sufficient. Lacey Evans definitely took a lot of punishment in this match. I kind of felt bad for her. One thing I wanted to just touch on it was the fact that I get that Lacey Evans had Seth written on her ring gear on her butt, but it was amazing that shot, that zoom in of her ass that they did during her entrance. And they didn't even get the Seth. It was just her ass. So it was very un-WWE-like. I know there's been a lot of rumors that they're turning away from the TV PG product, but I thought that was a little much. I mean, I don't even think they did that back with Tori Wilson and Candice Michelle. I know there was a lot of extreme things that happened. They used to have people stripping pretty much half nudity on those shows, but just a straight zoom in of a girl's ass. It brought me back to the good old Beautiful People days with Velvet Sky and Angelina Love. Very similar to that. I know Paul Heyman had to have had that idea in the back of his mind. But I just want to say that before we got to the match. That was very strange. I get why they did it, but wow. I mean, I'm not necessarily complaining. I think Lacey Evans is a very attractive woman. But a close-up of her ass during a pay-per-view in WWE, I did not expect. Moving along to the match, like I was saying, Lacey Evans took a lot of punishment. There was a lot of good spots in this match. You had the spot where Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins jumped off the top rope, respectively, onto their respective gender opponents, putting them through tables. Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans teaming up a couple times on Seth Rollins. Baron Corbin hitting Becky Lynch with the end of days, something you don't see a lot in WWE. A man just straight hitting a woman with a move, and especially a finisher. I thought the ending of this match was great. The rest of the match was kind of normal for an Extreme Rules street fight, no holds barred match. A lot of weapons used, but you were kind of just waiting to see if Brock Lesnar was going to come out, considering that Paul Heyman had teased it the whole night, or if Seth and Becky were going to win. So you have Baron Corbin hit the end of days on Becky Lynch. This incenses her boyfriend, Seth Rollins. He goes on to just bludgeon Baron Corbin with a bunch of weapons, including chairs and kendo sticks, and curb stomps Corbin 3 times. Pins him 1, 2, 3 in the center of the ring. I'm fine with it. We move on from the storyline. Then Brock Lesnar comes out. You hear his music. The crowd's wondering. The announcers are wondering, is it real? Brock Lesnar comes out in full fighting gear. He has the Money in the Bank briefcase. Well, specifically, Paul Heyman had the Money in the Bank briefcase. And he cashes in on Seth Rollins, hits him with an F5, pins him 1, 2, 3. And once again, Brock Lesnar is Universal Champion. I get why they did this, because you set up a legitimate match between Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins at SummerSlam in a month. SummerSlam is the quote unquote second WrestleMania for WWE. But I just don't think a lot of people want to see this. I don't mind it personally, but just judging from Twitter, I follow a lot of accounts, a lot of wrestling accounts that I trust. A lot of people didn't like this. I'm okay with a Brock Lesnar-Seth Rollins match, because I think, we were in some ways robbed of a legitimate one-on-one match, with Brock Lesnar attacking Rollins before the match at WrestleMania, and then Rollins using a low blow and hitting his curb stomps and finishing him really quickly to begin WrestleMania. To see a full match between the two, I do want to see. This is the last match I want to see of Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar, if in fact that is what happens at SummerSlam. I mean, I'm pretty sure it is, but you never say never. But I just think you're going in again, competition with AEW. August, 3 weeks later, you have the biggest pay-per-view of AEW's calendar year. I know Double or Nothing was awesome, but some of the matches stacking up at this all-out pay-per-view and the rumors going around, this is going to be better than WrestleMania this year, this card. And SummerSlam, in some ways, is WWE's only chance to directly compete with All Out. I know they said they're going to do something big in September after All Out, but man, I just think WWE lost an opportunity with potentially a Seth Rollins, Seth Rollins versus anybody else match, to be honest. I mean, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, the list goes on. A new kind of challenger, maybe a Cesaro, right? And then we get the same old shit. I saw someone on Twitter use that. Same old shit with WWE. Brock Lesnar in the main event again. Brock Lesnar, the Universal Champion. Again, I'm okay with the match at SummerSlam. I'm okay with Brock Lesnar having the championship right now. I only want him to hold it until SummerSlam, though. If he beats Seth Rollins at SummerSlam and nobody comes out after to create some big moment or something like that will legitimize another big match for Brock Lesnar that people want to see. I mean, I'm going to All Out in Chicago. I'm from Southern California. I'm paying good money to go see All Out. I'll be more excited for AEW if Brock Lesnar wins this match at SummerSlam. Because Seth Rollins needs to be the champion, okay? And we need to see Seth Rollins defend his championship against people that we actually want to see him defend his championship against. We don't want to see him defend it against Baron Corbin. We don't want to see him defend it or go for the title again, I guess in this case, against Brock Lesnar. We want to see Seth Rollins. We want to see new superstars. We want to see new stuff, guys. And I get it. Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff are taking over Raw and SmackDown. The rumors are that the SummerSlam plans can change. Paul, I know you're associated with Brock Lesnar, but let's change this shit up. At least if they're going to have a match, let's have something happen after or something like that, because this just can't happen. And Brock Lesnar cannot be the Universal Champion. If Paul Heyman's idea of the top champion on your brand being Brock Lesnar is his top idea, then we're in for some complete bullshit on Monday Night Raw. I hope this is a Vince McMahon idea and not a Paul Heyman idea. I'm excited to see SmackDown this coming Tuesday because Eric Bischoff apparently is taking over. We've seen him on Twitter and Instagram. He's going to Stamford, Connecticut. He's on the road with his family. But, again, if Raw is going to be controlled around Brock Lesnar and this is Paul Heyman's idea, WWE is going to be hard for me to watch, to be honest. And I'm a WWE apologist in some ways. But with the way AEW has produced their first 3 shows, they haven't necessarily been disappointing. And with the way they're stacking All Out for August 31st, I'll be there. I was excited enough to buy tickets and go to Chicago, where I'm not from and I never have been. If WWE is going to think Brock Lesnar as Universal Champion is a good idea, I'm going to be done with WWE for a while. So this has been the review. Again, if I forgot a match or you want my opinion on another match or you disagreed or you agreed, please put it in the comments. If you like this type of content, please subscribe, like, comment, do all the stuff. You know what the thing is. We all got to say it because people forget. And this is kind of how we run our stuff. This is how we run our YouTube page based on the fans they're listening and watching. So good stuff coming up from the Ring Generals. Later this week, we interviewed Eric Watts, known as Watts right now on the independent scene. He is he's a professional wrestler that was on Tough Enough back in 2011. The original one was Stone Cold Steve Austin. Not the original one back in the early 2000s. In the mid 2000s, you had Miss America on this show. Cameron, forgetting who won the actual show, but nonetheless, we have an interview with Watts. It's going to be about 30 minutes long. There's going to be some fun videos that the RKJ Man and I did tied into it. That we did some videos in LA. They're going to be involved in the interview. He gave us a lot of good stuff. He gave us a great story from Tough Enough. He told us some good stories about Rusev, about his independent days before Tough Enough. A great story about how Tough Enough is produced, and you've probably heard about reality television, but not the way he kind of describes it. So it's going to be a good interview. And then he also talks about the current independent scene, representation of African Americans in wrestling, and what he wants to do, whether he would want to go back to WWE, quote unquote, or go to AEW or Impact Wrestling or New Japan Pro Wrestling. So stay tuned for that. But as far as the review of Extreme Rules, this has been it. If I had to give a grade of it or whatever, I usually go good, bad, average. This was in the middle of average and bad because the beginning was good and the rest of the pay-per-view was kind of bad. So, it is what it is. WWE disappoints again. From what I've heard, the Evolve show was great. I'm going to watch it later tonight or tomorrow morning. We might do a review on it. We might not. I don't know. It will probably be me that does the review. So you'll see me again, I guess. But nonetheless, I'm Nick Nenad from the Ring Generals. Stay tuned for more content. Subscribe, comment, like, please. Follow us on Twitter at Ring Generals 1. On Twitter, capital R, capital G, and the number 1. At the Ring Generals, just spelled out lowercase on Instagram, and then Facebook. Check us out. We got a Facebook page as well, the Ring Generals, simply that. So for Nick Nenad, the Ring Generals has been the Extreme Rules review. I hope you enjoyed it more than the actual Extreme Rules pay-per-view. See you guys, and raise a glass in the sky and salute the Ring Generals.